So, you know, if your life is composed of order and chaos in a sense, and that's part of your fundamental existential problem, how to deal with chaos, how to deal with too much order, in some sense, your nervous system already sets you up for that. Now, and that's associated with some of the deeper ideas that have been put forward by people like Jung, and then to a lesser degree by people like Rogers and Maslow, who believed in something like human potential or human self-actualization. And Jung's idea was a deeper idea than that, was that when you're operating on the border between order and chaos, and you're interested in something, that's when you're where you are. That's when you're there. You're interested in something and you're captivated by it. Jung would then say, if you try to stay there, which means you follow that, it will take you to all the places that you don't want to go. It'll take you to all the places in your past that you haven't made complete use of, and it'll take you to all those places that you're avoiding in the future and the present. That's what that mechanism is for. And the reason it'll do that is because with all those experiences that you've had in the past that you've avoided or you haven't made thorough use of, there's still sort of latent world left there. So, you know, you see this with people in their relationships. It's like, say a woman is going out with an abusive guy. She finally drops him, and it's like, boom, next relationship. Oh, look, it's another abusive guy. And then she drops him, and then the next relationship, it's like, it's another abusive guy. And Freud called that the repetition compulsion. But you might think, well, what is missing in her worldview that makes it such that when she acts, she keeps running into the same obstacle? It's like her map isn't correct. And so then you might say, well, if she went back to the first relationship and really dug around in the carcass, so to speak, she might find out what the hell she's missing. One thing might be, well, when exactly do you say no? And how do you say it? You know, because abuse, for example, usually starts out, it rarely starts out that the person is calm and then you end up pounded flat. It's like the person who's prone to abuse is disagreeable, and so they'll push you. And then what happens next depends on how you respond. And if you step back, and you step back, and you step back, and you keep doing that, the probability that the aggression, the person can't control the aggression, say, because they're not well socialized, unless you put a limit on it, it's just going to chase you. It's going to get bigger and bigger as you step backwards. And like very many things are like that in life. So then you think, well, you have to make enough use of what's around you, of what you haven't explored, to repair yourself in some sense, or to flesh yourself out, so that you're capable of saying, no, that's not going to happen, in a way that actually increases the probability that it's not going to happen. Now, I'm certainly not saying that, you know, everybody's in an abusive relationship deserves to be in one. I'm talking about a very specific set of circumstances where the same damn thing happens over and over. Because then you have to ask, well, is this random? Or is there something going on that increases the probability of that outcome? The idea, well, you've got this little framework that you have to look at the world through. It tells you approximately where you are, approximately where you need to go, and approximately what you should do to get there. But it can be wrong at any level of analysis. So then you ask, well, what produces those little worlds? And one answer is basic biological necessity, right? So the basic motivational systems, emotional systems, the lines are blurry, partly keep you on track, right? You're hungry when your blood sugar falls, you're thirsty when you're not sufficiently hydrated, obviously. You're sleepy when you've gone without sleep for too long, etc., etc. And those things have been problems for so long that in some sense you have machinery that takes care of that. Okay, so that's modeled there. I sort of roughly broke the fundamental motivations into those that keep you going and those that help you propagate, because in some sense those are the two Darwinian problems that you have to solve in life. But then you might think, this seems to me to be how you can start to think about how the traits might be organized into this narrative scheme. It's like the traits seem to me, maybe there's 100, maybe there's 30 motivational states. Some of them are pure motivational states maybe, and some of them are just combinations of motivational states, but they're like the basic elements of motivation. And then maybe they clump together in 5 different ways, and out of that we get the 5 traits, and then the 5 traits are like, they're kind of like the preconditions for your particular story. So if you're a conscientious person, then the world is a little less orderly and a little less well put together than it should be, and your story is, I'm the person who goes in there and fixes that up and makes it orderly. And you know, if you're an extroverted person, then you think, well, there's all that social territory out there to occupy and exploit, and I'm the sort of person that is really going to do that, because that's where your interests lie. And if you're an open person, it's like, wow, look at all these weird things that I can do and think about, and so that's the world for you. And those are all, you can think of those as a set of 5 stories in some sense that have a reasonable probability of success. So there are 5 modes of being, and they're composed of these more fragmented, fundamental motivations. It's something like that. It's so that that's sort of where you can start to see the concordance between the narrative theories of the clinicians and the trait theories of the empiricists. And there has been work done on this sort of thing. So we know, for example, that Jacob Hirsch did some of this work, that your trait temperament does influence the words that you use to describe your spontaneous self-narratives. So if I say, write about your past, and then I analyze your word use, I can make an educated guess about whether you're extroverted or introverted or conscientious or open or agreeable. So, and then Dan McAdams has showed that, you know how the big 5 clump into plasticity and stability? The plastic people produce more exploratory narratives, and the stable people produce narratives that are more associated with, security and order. So there hasn't been a lot of work done at the interface between traits and narratives, but, so I'm sort of pushing the limits of knowledge here, but I think that's the direction in which the integration will likely take place.